And we are in, this is Duke, we are in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I'm just doing a test. It's just a graphic test again. It's in Barcelona. We're in a Diamond DA40NG, and here we go. Like I said, I'm just going to fly around, just see how the terrain looks, the smoothness. I did one in Tokyo, but it was at nighttime or evening, so this is in Spain. And I will try to get down to, I'm not sure how I think the graphics are updated, but I'm going to show some of the cathedrals and unexplained buildings that could never have been built by a human, because they weren't built by a human. They're actually built by nature, no different than a mountain formation or a snowflake or a tree or a human or a life form. It's a lot of people don't realize that the earth, the weather, the structures are all communicating with what you would, you may call it the source, could call it Allah, could call it God, could call it whatever you want, but that is the unseen, which is you can communicate with at a quantum level, and it's actually at a 0 point dimension. And when they say it's everywhere, it is everywhere. It's non-physical or antimatter, and what happens is when it builds these structures, it's building them naturally to preserve life forms that it actually senses and detects through thought of like the life forms don't even realize it. So here I am flying. I'm going to show some AI modes in this too. I want to get up so I can kind of see out as well as possible, not too far. And well, let's go up a bit. Now there's a castle, and you notice how castles are, a lot of them are built on mountaintops, and the rock up there. This rock didn't come from there. The rock actually comes from the ground. That's why most of these structures have tunnels underneath them, because that's where the matter comes from. And when it comes from the 5D, there's fingerprints. And fingerprints are symmetry, arches. It builds everything according. And the reason they're all different, especially basilicas and cathedrals, because they're built according to nature's design, which is they have similarities, to take static electricity out of the ether, use extract energy from motion and water, and then you have the rail systems. That's part of the network that they integrated, and most of these structures were there or built as the Earth senses humans or any life form that are in need. Now, there is some other reasons why I think a lot of these are showing up now, because when they come from the 5D, the source, there is no space or time. So they inject right throughout the timeline of my timeline. And they show themselves. And the reason I know they weren't there before, there's another one right there. Look at that, domes, they got copper in there. They take and the reason they're made of stone is because stone is mass, and mass equals mc squared can produce larger amounts of energy. pulling it from the ether, or, well, that's why they say weather. It's actually the ether. And so they're actually, and then what happens is the evil powers on Earth that are 3D, they can't get or access the higher frequencies of good, which is amplified from energy motion, or energy den, and they, Dan literally ignore, I guess he was doing some hologrammetry error. But anyways, that's what happened, and a lot of these structures, because the evil that is putting chemicals into the atmosphere, and then sending HAARP, electromagnetic pulses, trying to alter, create the weather, they're actually affecting the timelines. They don't realize it, because the timeline of our history is, because when you meddle with stuff in the earth trying to control the weather, and that's usually created by the source. So if they're manipulating stuff, trying to act as God or manipulate weather, they don't realize that they could be affecting other timelines in the past. So then the Earth detects this, and that's why you're seeing these, a lot of these items injected into the timelines at points that are being affected by humans. So if they're affecting something and there's no life forms being affected from the past, but if there were some that would be decimated by that created hurricane or disruption, that's why they say a lot of, it's only the source or God or aliens, as per se, can only intervene in the event that that something is manipulating from another timeline, and so they got to protect the timelines, because the timelines get completely destroyed, and that actually will technically destroy our current timeline. So it's all evil. They should be naturally left. And these people, Bill Gates and a lot of the World Economic Forum and other globalists, they should be imprisoned or stopped from, especially the HAARP programs, because they don't realize the destruction they're doing. And a lot of these structures are being built from nature. There's no way that they could ever have been built back, thousands of years ago. There was no technology. But when you think of when they're being created from the source, like a 3D printer, from another dimension through thoughts and manifestations, they come out. It's no different than a snowflake. When you get, especially if you put good, positive thoughts into frequency, you'll see water. It'll be symmetrical and cymatic. Same with snowflakes. Whereas if you put chaos and evil, they come out. They don't look symmetrical, and it's destructive. Well, that is going through the my timeline, because I am actually witnessing this evil, and I'm recognizing. I know what's happening because I can connect to the source. I have techniques that I've developed, and I can interact, and using my elevated frequency techniques and the power of quantum thought. A lot of people don't realize that the thoughts are quantum in nature, but a lot of people don't realize that, and they don't know how to send that communication and use that communication. And they say spells, or it's like spelling, and spells, and programming, and you've got all these terms, but that's just the perception of the people in the timeline. Now, when you get these structures that get injected, even though they may be saving people, there's going to be people that are going to find these, and then they become founders. So they're not really lying, but a lot of evil ones try to, that's why they created all those fires and they try to destroy them, so that they can claim that they rebuilt them. But a lot of times they're just lighting them on fire, but the stone remains, and then they rebuild them and they claim that they built them. And a lot of these, the historical data, when it comes from the source, they don't want to freak everyone out if it just instantly all appeared, so they actually put artifacts, which are kind of, explanations of, who built them, but a lot of it was done by the people that were trying to steal these structures and claim them as if they had done it, so they would manipulate photography, and that's why you see a lot of the skies are all white, because they're eliminating the skyline, so you can't see that, and then they erase with overexposure techniques, and then they put in other primitive cranes and structures to make it look like they were building it, but they weren't. There was no way that they could have. There was no technology, and even a lot of the railway locomotives, they didn't run on coal. They were like steam engines, but the steam was heated by it was like an ether induction, electric induction that would heat it up. The same thing. That's how the fireplaces didn't burn wood. It actually drew ether down a chimney from a spire, and heated up where the fire, or now we would have fireplace, but it was actually just the copper or stone. It's almost like a geothermal technique, and then they would go deep in the underground so that it actually transfer the median or mean core temperature underground, which is like 68 or 70 degrees. So it's almost like a natural geothermal design. And same thing with star forts. They were designed, that a lot of them you see on water systems, so that hurricanes and other typhoons and other weather or manipulations that are affecting back in the timeline, people can get shelter. And that's why the star forts are designed, so that the water tidal waves will skip over them, won't destroy the structures. The structures are underneath, so they can survive these evil manipulated events. And if you know how to, and I can prove that, because I've had communications and synchronicities with their response from nature, from wind, from animals, and that's how they communicate. But to get a response, it has to be done through, higher frequency action, thoughts, quantum thoughts, and in positive. So it's like, I'll give you an example. When you produce a kid, or any animal or creature, they have sex. That's a release of energy. That's how you have, but it can only be positive. Like you can't have a negative energy or negative thoughts and then have sex and produce a child, because you wouldn't have that positive. You have to have positive sexual energy and a release, which is a transfer of energy from. So every human is created. The your DNA sequence is almost imprinted from, when it's really created, from the source through an explosion, which is like a mini bang, like I'm saying the bang, and then it's really just having sex in a positive nature. But trees do the same thing with their seeds. Weather is receptive, and the earth is, and building and then manifesting these structures is done through control and amplification. And the highest quantum energy is amplified from your heart chakra, which is your love and your thoughts. And it takes a long time to understand how this works, and then that's where you get karma comes into play. You get positive, negative karma according to how you treat people. I don't know if there's a stutter. Hopefully that's not getting out of memory or something. So then in screen here, but like I said, these signatures, not all structures like that, but a lot of the ones that, like the pyramids and castles and stuff, that physically they never, and people say, oh, there's giants that lifted them. Nobody lifted them. The reason they're so precise is because they're just being reassembled. So, and when you're dealing with coming from the source, because there's no space or time, the gravity, or basically the anti-gravity, but there's no, so everything, all the molecules get released, and then reassembled from just like a change of a state, from dimension state, from the source dimension to our third dimension. But because it's coming from the dimension where there is no space or time, and it's coming via quantum thought manifestation, which is the highest energy form, because it's like infinite energy. Because if you have a quantum thought, there is no space or time, so there's no way across the world, galaxy, anywhere else, because the quantum thought is a frequency that accesses the zero source, where like I said, where there is no space or time. That's why it's instantaneous. And when you say under observation, because when you observe something, that observation is going through observations are at a quantum level. So the result of observing something transmutes into a quantum energy, which, if amplified by emotion, energy motion, or even energy then, it can result in these invoking this from the source. So it's and that's why they say, when a lot of speculative alien craft, I do believe they're actually craft that may be coming. It's like Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark is just really an upside down cathedral and to float, and the other cathedrals are to protect against storms and rain, and that's why they go into the ground, and they say mud floods. Well, mud floods is just years of weather effects on them, and they're meant to withstand them. They have a lot of reason they're columns, is because columns will dissipate the energy of tidal waves and stuff, and protect the structure and the people inside. That's why you see a lot of archways and slits. It's not for fighting, it's for protecting against these the manipulators from the 2D who are using electromagnetic weapons, directed energy weapons, nuclear weapons, and so that they can try to, they don't know how it works, but they know they're doing destruction. And that, which is Satan, that basically Satan. So it's all interrelated. I'm not sure exactly, but I do know how to connect and invoke and manifest through, and you can do the same. Well, I don't realize I can do it just through my thoughts with someone else I'm thinking about. They don't realize it, but I'm actually having I can make them feel it rage, but it has to be genuine and authentic. Like you can't fake it. So that's why evil people they try to manipulate people that are good, because evil cannot access that dimensional manifestation, but they can manipulate it in a negative way, and then try to steal the response of the earth to protect life. And the evil people, that's why you see a lot of the Jews that own a lot of these structures, is because they know that they're manipulating it, and then they're stealing it because they're the ones manipulating it. So their historical people, I'm not sure if they send messages to them, and then they go to these locations, they find them, and then they cover it up and they claim ownership that they made them, and they really did not. There's no way. And you can see fingerprints, and you'll see somatic, circle, symmetry, archways, and these are perfect creations of entire cities and power systems, and they connect. Like I think the trains actually, and the whole system is aware, has like almost like an AI awareness from God. So that's how they actually move them. And if you look at a lot of the aircraft that you say were in some of the government officials, people say that real aircraft, they say that the aliens or the entities had to put their hand on something. Well, that's because they're connecting at a quantum level. So it's actually almost like a craft can operate by the thoughts. So you think about going to Mars, and boom, you're there. It's quantum is instantaneous, and there's infinite power, but you can tap into that ether of the earth and everything else to build these structures, and then have them have this energy which is free. And that's why these people that didn't understand it in the past, like steam engines that were coming from the ether induction and stuff like that, so they know that there's steam involved, but they didn't know how it was created because they can't see it. So they would just, oh well, if you heat up coal, that'll heat up that steam or create that steam, and that'll operate the thing. So they would rudimentally backwards engineering, but they were actually designed to run on connecting with the everywhere. It's everywhere, that dimension. So any life form or thought or anything that's going in these paths, it already knows. So if it knows that someone's thinking about getting on that tank, it will just slow down and let them off. Yeah, and if it needs to build more because population is higher, it does. So it's almost like a complete circle, and a lot of people, these are all just molecules that are realigned. And the biggest lie is that carbon is bad. Well, we're all carbon. All these molecules are carbon. Carbon is good. Carbon, especially carbon dioxide, that's what life, especially plant form, that produces oxygen for the mammals, life forms that need that to survive. So our byproduct is CO2 coming out, which feeds them, which then produces more oxygen for us. So it's a big circle of good. Whereas if you eliminate all that CO2, all the plant life's going to die, then there's going to be no oxygen, and the humans are going to die. So anyone that says that you got to reduce or eliminate CO2, they're trying to kill life forms that rely on oxygen. And the precious, the best times on this planet for oxygen levels were when you had higher oxygen levels, which are the result of higher CO2 levels. So it's a big drift, and that's what Connie's doing in Canada. That's what the globalists are doing, because they're evil. They don't understand it. They just know that they're going to try to manipulate how the Earth operates so that they can profit from it, which is wrong, because everything is put on here to naturally be created and operated, all these building structures, and that's why the powers really try to destroy everything, especially the Catholic churches, because those are from good, and they're to perform good, and they don't want anyone to figure out that what the true purpose. That's why they all look very similar. You go all over the world, and you got these tunnels, you got the subway system, you got the rail system, you got tunnels through mountains. That was all realigned particles from the source. It's like these buildings, they're just proof. It's like a 3D printer from God, essentially. And once you realize that that's when you get synchronicities, and I can prove it, then you know, you can see through the revisionist, the history with the Mandela effects, which are, like I said, they're being manipulated by evil, satanic persons, which are, you got the oil industry. That was so they could profit from these devices. So I'm just gonna go to the closest airport, land, and I gotta go make dinner. So this nice little flight in this, not a new mouse, it's so smooth. You just look around just perfectly. It's a Logitech G Pro. It's just plug in, and it's already configured. It's so smooth. Just looking around. Look at that. It's just okay. So we want to be back, like right around there, I think. Don't have to see the flight stick. There's an airport up ahead. I'm gonna land and then shut it off. It is just kind of a test. Oh, there's the runway there. Like I said, I'm in this mode where you're just cruising around, so I can't really see if I can change the weather. No, it's kind of preset on how it works in this. There's the runway. So let's put some flaps down and throttle down. I want to be landing around, I think around 80. It also depends on your weight. Like you see, my fuel is not really started out at a good amount. 95. Yeah, so I want to come around 95 and then maybe drop the throttle a bit. So I can see 90. I don't know which way I can feel it. It's almost like a crosswind coming from right to left, going down to 80. Yeah, I'm gonna make this a smooth one. And you gotta realize, you gotta know your height from your head to the bottom of this. Because so many times you'll be in a taller aircraft and your wheels will touch down before you realize it, and then you'll just crash. Or this one, you think you're gonna hit, but you gotta go down lower, and you'll just slam down at the last second. So there we go. Let's put the gear up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I said, this is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Just going into a little tangent about how everything works dimensionally. And but if you learn, you know how to access that with synchronicity. I actually know how I can create elevated frequencies and go to that level of communication, but also put it out of sync. So it'll actually go in micro units into that, either forward in time or in distance. Now, I'm not sure exactly what sequence. I'd have to experiment whether it be, it's either plus that goes into the future or the negative. And like I said, and then it might actually produce like just a portal, so you can actually see through it. So if I created that portal and then looked through it to a news broadcast, maybe I'll see the future news. I have to do some cameras. But anyways, here's the plane just landed. This is in Spain, in Barcelona. And I could shut it off too, but I'm just gonna end it here. I gotta go make dinner and geek out. Stop. Geek is out.